the night I found the bracelet, I was supposed to be in court. Judge Landon had just postponed our hearing on the Petrov estate division, citing some vague emergency. I could have gone back to the office, returned calls, signed motions. But instead, I went home. The apartment was still and dark, bathed in that molasses light LA does so well. Gold through glass, thick with late-day heat. I liked it that way. Quiet. Predictable. Owen's blazer was folded over the white chair in the corner. His laptop was still open on the counter. And next to the sink, beside a mug he'd rinsed but not quite washed, was the thing that didn't belong. Thin, delicate, cheap, gold-plated, a little clasp shaped like a bow. I'd seen it before, on Mia Kavanaugh's wrist. She wore it during her internship the summer prior, always twisting it around like she thought it made her look older. Mia was 24, the type who called every senior partner sir until they told her not to, and then kept doing it anyway. She took her coffee black and her flattery syrupy, and I'd only ever hired her as a favor to a colleague from Yale. I stood there staring at the bracelet like it might leap up and confess. My first emotion wasn't rage or heartbreak. It was analysis. My mind split down the middle, bifurcating like it had so many times in deposition rooms. What is the goal? What are the facts? Where is the leverage? I went upstairs, set down my briefcase, changed into silk loungewear, ivory, unsuspicious. I kissed Owen on the mouth when he came home. "Rough day?" he asked, loosening his tie. "No worse than usual," I said, smiling with all my teeth. I didn't say a word about the bracelet. Not that day, not the next. Not the day after that, when I saw Mia walking out of a downtown cafe wearing Owen's Patagonia pullover like a trophy. I simply noted the detail and kept walking. It wasn't time, because this wouldn't be a confrontation. It would be a takedown, legal, emotional, and absolute. And for that, I had to prepare. I began with forgiveness, or rather, the performance of it. I let Owen catch me reading old anniversary cards one night, deliberately misty-eyed. "I miss us," I murmured, and his eyes softened like a dog learning a trick. "I've missed you too," he said. "Work's just been—" "I know," I whispered. "I know." I let him believe that the problem between us was distance, career hours, my famous chill. I even let him sleep with me again. It was almost laughably easy. He was guilt-ridden and greedy, the perfect mark. Every time he touched me, I thought about how fast his hands would tremble if he knew what was coming. But the plan wasn't just about Owen. It was about Mia too. Mia had joined a boutique firm in Century City. I sent flowers to her assistant, then an invite to our holiday party, CC'd to her new boss, with a handwritten note at the bottom. "So proud of you," a calculated reintroduction. She wouldn't suspect surveillance if I was smiling at her. And I was. At least, in public. In private, I'd started drafting the preliminary filings, custody of assets, undisclosed liabilities, a forensic accountant going line by line through Owen's real estate investments, offshore curiosities, and the consulting favor he did for Mia's father that he never bothered to mention. If he thought he was the only one capable of secrets, he was out of his depth. A week later, we had dinner at Ilaria, his favorite. Our hands rested close together on the white linen tablecloth. His wedding band gleamed under the amber lights. "You've been different lately," he said. "Good different?" I asked, sipping my wine. He nodded. "Like you're letting me in again." I smiled, leaned forward, touched his wrist. Letting you in? I was about to evict you from your entire life, but I needed him relaxed, vulnerable. All traps are better baited with warmth. And anyway, I had my own reasons to play nice. I was late, 2 weeks late, and I hadn't told a soul, not even the man who might not be the father. I stared down at the pregnancy test on a Sunday morning, shaking. I'd thrown up my espresso, twice. My body was too trained, too regimented, to miss signs like that. And still, I stared at the test like it was a foreign object. It shouldn't have been possible. I'd always thought I'd missed the window. Or maybe I just hadn't cared enough to check. I'd spent my life carving marriages apart, not growing things from them. And now? A child, a life, a variable I hadn't planned for. The trap I'd laid for Owen was already tightening. But this changed everything, because no matter how carefully I played it, someone was going to get burned. There's a certain silence in high-rise apartments that feels intentional. A silence you pay for. Triple glazed glass and engineered floors, built to mute even the softest betrayals. Mine had been particularly quiet lately. I kept the pregnancy to myself, not because I was unsure, but because I was thinking, strategizing, weighing what kind of story this child might be born into. If it was Owen's, the trap would snap shut exactly as I planned. Full custody, asset seizure, reputational ruin. A headline-worthy fall from grace. I'd win the war, and the baby would grow up in the light of that justice. But if it was Daniel's, well, Daniel was a different ledger entirely. He was Owen's younger brother, the one the family pretended didn't exist. Tall, magnetic, emotionally reckless. He'd left LA years ago after a string of overdoses and one particularly public rehab stint. But he came back for a single night last fall, just after I'd buried my father. Owen had been in Paris, consulting. My phone had been silent for 3 days. Daniel showed up uninvited. I let him in. We didn't sleep together, not technically. But we kissed, slow and stunned and desperate. And I let him hold me in the way you only let someone touch you when you've hit the floor of yourself. My hair still smelled like his cedar cologne the next morning. We never spoke again. I booked an appointment with a private lab off Wilshire. Discreet concierge service, no records tied to insurance. I didn't want results yet. Just a vial of silence, tucked into a folder. Until then, I continued the performance. I scheduled a weekend in Ojai. Just us, I said sweetly, and Owen bought it so completely I almost pitied him. Almost. He brought wine. I brought the prenup amendment, tucked it into a folder labeled Tax Planning 2025. He never opened it. He just kissed me by the fireplace and said, "I think we're going to be okay." I let him say it. Let him mean it. And that night, I whispered, "Let's start trying again." His eyes widened, lit with that sick hope, and I watched him crumble into gratitude. He didn't know he was already too late. Back in LA, I scheduled lunch with Mia. She was nervous, fidgeting in a pale silk blouse she couldn't quite afford, clutching her napkin like it might fly away. "It's so good to see you," she said, voice a full octave higher than usual. I tilted my head. "You look lovely. How's life treating you?" She nodded, eyes flicking everywhere but mine. "Really good. Work's challenging, but I'm learning a lot." I sipped my Pellegrino. "Dating anyone?" There was a beat too long before she said, "No, not really." I gave her a slow smile. "You always were a terrible liar." Her face flushed. She looked ready to cry. And then, very softly, I said, Don't worry. I'm not here to punish you. A pause. I forgave Owen, I continued. And I forgive you too. It was the lie of the decade. She exhaled with the desperate relief of a child who just avoided detention. Thank you, she whispered. You were young, I said, patting her hand. It was a mistake. We all make them. She looked like she wanted to hug me, and all I could think was, this is the moment she walks into the lion's den with both feet. Later that week, I left my office after hours and took the elevator alone to the 24th floor. Legal archives, storage, where files go to sleep. There, in a locked cabinet, I placed the sealed envelope containing the paternity sample. No name on the label, just an accession code and my initials. I didn't want the answer yet, not until I'd designed every legal permutation, every public exit strategy, every line I'd speak to the press if it came to that. Was it Owen's? Or Daniel's? The question simmered, but I wouldn't let it boil over. Not yet, because I wasn't done building the stage. On a Thursday morning, I sent Owen a calendar hold. Lunch while after client. Westside Marina. Confidential. NDA required. I knew he'd follow me, and I knew he'd think I didn't notice. I let him watch me meet with a real estate agent, let him overhear just enough. Quiet sale. Child-safe layout. Adjacent to the private preschool. Let the suspicion flicker. Just enough to destabilize his smug little world. Let the trap breathe. He came home that night silent, eyes wary. I greeted him in silk again, made him steak, tucked a prenatal vitamin bottle deep in the trash, label facing out. He didn't ask. He just watched me, like I was a ghost in our home. Good, I thought. Let him start to fear what he can't prove. Let him wonder if I'm already gone. Because I am. I've already left this marriage. I just haven't told him where I went. It was remarkable, really, how quickly a man forgets the rules when he thinks he's winning. Owen began to change in subtle, rehearsed ways. Spontaneous back rubs, carefully planned surprise dinners. Photos of old vacations texted with captions like, "Remember this?" The kind of half-sincere courtship that always comes after a betrayal. Not from remorse, but from fear. Fear of losing what he thought he'd already owned. But the moment I knew I had him, truly had him, was the night he reached for my hand in the car and said, "I don't deserve you, V." That was the first time I felt anything close to euphoria in months. I looked out the window, hiding my smile. The city glittered against the glass like broken promises. No, Owen, I thought. You don't deserve me at all. I was 3 months along now, just far enough for the truth to press at the edge of my body. I'd taken to loose dresses and structured coats, careful camera angles, early morning meetings so I could excuse the fatigue. No one at the firm suspected. Not yet, but I was running out of time. The test result waited, unopened, in a locked safe at the firm. And Daniel? He was back in LA. Quietly. I knew because I'd hired a private investigator the day after I found the bracelet. Not to follow Owen. He was predictable. But Daniel? Daniel was the chaos I couldn't afford. He was staying in a short-term rental in Echo Park. Writing, apparently. A memoir about addiction and reinvention. Of course he was. The file said he hadn't seen Owen in over a year. Hadn't spoken to me in longer. I almost believed it. And then, he showed up. It was a Sunday. I was at the farmer's market, of all places. Hair pinned, sunglasses on, cardigan stretched across a small but undeniable swell. I hadn't seen him until he spoke. "You're glowing," he said quietly. I turned. Daniel stood in front of a booth of sunflowers, hands in his pockets, face unreadable. My breath caught. He looked older, leaner, but the same fire lived behind his eyes. The one Owen had never had. I found my voice. "You shouldn't be here. I didn't plan it. I just saw you. I wasn't sure it was real." He looked down, then back at me. "Is it?" I said nothing. He took a step forward, eyes softening. "Is it mine?" That moment, I'll never forget. The air tasted metallic. My hands tightened on the paper bag full of nectarines. I didn't nod. I didn't deny. I just said, "Go home, Daniel." He stood there another full second, as if trying to burn the image of me into his memory. Then he walked away. That night, Owen surprised me with dinner reservations at a place in Malibu, somewhere we hadn't been in years. I wore a navy silk dress that curved around the growing secret I still hadn't spoken aloud. He ordered wine. I declined. His eyes flicked to my glass. "Still not drinking?" "I told you," I said, tilting my head. "Clean September." He laughed like it was charming. I excused myself mid-meal and locked the bathroom door behind me. Sat on the toilet lid and opened the email on my phone, the one from the lab. I'd been holding it for 2 weeks. The subject line was innocuous. Confidential results. Lane 0348HX. I tapped once, then again, and read it. I didn't cry, didn't smile, didn't move for a full minute. Then I washed my hands and returned to the table. "Everything okay?" Owen asked, reaching for his fork. I nodded, calm. Just had to think through something. "Anything I can help with?" I looked at him, really looked at him. The man who broke our vows with a girl half my age and still believed, even now, that he could win me back with imported sea bass and baby talk. "No," I thought, "you can't help me, but you will help me destroy you." The next morning, I filed the petition for separation. Not divorce, not yet. Just the prelude. I instructed my assistant to deliver it directly to Owen's personal attorney, who, inconveniently, was someone I beat in court last year. That made it personal. Good. Personal made it sloppy. The cover letter was surgical, short, emotionless. I CC'd Owen. He texted within 10 minutes. "Victoria, what the hell is this?" I didn't respond. I waited. At 4:52 p.m., I received the expected knock. He was furious, but beneath the anger, there it was. Panic. That low, guttural twitch of a man realizing the center of his universe had just moved without him. "You're overreacting," he said. "This is insane." I stood at the kitchen island, arms crossed. "You lied," I said simply. "About her. About a lot of things." He flinched. "You said you forgave me." I said a lot of things. I thought we were trying again. I walked past him into the living room and stopped in front of the glass wall. Without turning, I said, "I'm pregnant." Silence, like time cracked open and held its breath. He came closer, slowly. "What?" "I'm pregnant," I repeated, voice even. He exhaled, a hand to his face. "God, V, why didn't you tell me?" I turned to him, let him look into my eyes, and said, without blinking, "Because it might not be yours." He staggered like I'd slapped him, and in that moment, I felt nothing. No regret, no thrill, just clarity. I'd spent a decade helping people unravel their marriages. Now I was watching mine split cleanly in two, and I had the knife. He didn't speak for almost a minute, just stood there in his designer sneakers, mouth open, trying to process a sentence that wouldn't compute because it might not be yours. I watched the color drain from his face like blood leaving a corpse. He looked smaller somehow, like the words had punctured his spine. What the hell does that mean? He said finally, voice cracking. I walked to the bar cart, poured sparkling water into a glass, and took a sip before answering. Calm. Surgical. I'd practiced this part in my head 100 times. It means I was unfaithful, I said. Once, over a year ago, around the time your affair started. He shook his head, eyes wide. This isn't... No, you're lying. You wouldn't do that. Wouldn't I? You're not like that, Victoria. You're controlled. And yet, I said softly, I wasn't. He turned away, one hand on the back of the couch, like he needed it to stay upright. Who is he? I said nothing. Tell me, he snapped, but I only watched him, watched the edges of the mask peel back. There you are, I thought. There's the man Mia fell for. Fragile, cornered, terrified. I don't know who the father is yet, I said. The test is sealed. I haven't opened it. But you'll tell me when you do, he asked, voice ragged. You'll let me raise the baby if it's mine? I tilted my head. Is that what you want? He stared at me, blinked, swallowed, and then, so quietly, I barely heard it. I don't know. Exactly what I needed him to say. That night, he left. Took an overnight bag and some excuses and went to his sister's house in Brentwood. Said he needed space. I let him go without argument. That's how you win the long game. Let your opponent believe they've chosen their own defeat. By morning, I had his building access revoked, the garage code changed, and the household account frozen. Mia's favorite almond milk delivery? Canceled. I made espresso, called my paralegal, and drafted the custody pre-filing for unborn children. Just in case, of course. Later that week, Daniel called. He didn't leave a voicemail. Just a missed call logged at 3:12 p.m. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I did. Too much. And wanting was a weakness I couldn't afford. Instead, I pulled out the envelope. The paternity result. I sat in the study, hands steady, heart not. I didn't need to open it now. Legally, emotionally, strategically, there were still reasons to wait. But something inside me, some fragment of the woman I'd been before all this, before the firm, before Owen, before betrayal became my second language. She wanted to know. She wanted a name to whisper into the quiet. And so, I slid my nail under the seal, unfolded the paper. Read the result. Positive. 99.94% probability. The child was Owen's. I laughed. A short, sharp sound. Then I cried for exactly 90 seconds. Not because I was sad, but because I had no idea what I felt. The next day, I made a move that would shift the entire board. I called Mia, told her I was ready to talk. She came to my office, trembling in a sand-colored blazer and pink lipstick, trying so hard to look like a grown-up. I don't know what to say, she murmured, eyes damp. Say yes, I said, folding a thick envelope into her hands. She blinked. What is this? An opportunity. Inside, a job offer. Not for her, for her brother. Mia had a twin, Miles, who'd just passed the bar and was desperate for a chance. The firm I connected him with would fast-track him, nurture him, hand him a career on a platter. All I asked in return was one favor. One very, very public favor. I need you to tell the truth, I said, to the press, about the affair, about Owen, about the way he spoke about me behind closed doors. Mia went still. You want me to give a statement? I nodded. On the record, authentic, emotional, and unretractable. She looked at the envelope, then at me. I thought you forgave us. I smiled. I did, I said, and now I'm giving you the chance to earn it. That weekend, the interview went live. One of those online exposés disguised as personal essays. I fell in love with my boss's husband. Here's what I regret. It trended by noon. My firm's board called by 4. Owen's phone presumably never stopped buzzing. She mentioned his name, his position, his gaslighting, his unhealthy power dynamic. She played the victim, of course. They always do. But she also played the confessor, just like I'd scripted it. And me? I said nothing, which made the silence louder. By Monday, Owen was calling again. 3 missed calls. 1 voicemail. V, please, we need to talk. I made a mistake. I know that. I'll sign anything. Just don't take the baby away from me. There it was, the word he hadn't used before. Baby. He believed now. Believed the life was real. And it terrified him more than the scandal ever could. And it should, because I wasn't just taking back my power. I was taking our child out of his reach. He'd have his money, yes, his stocks, his beach house. But the one thing that might have saved him, the thing he thought would anchor me forever, gone. By the time he realized the trap was already closed, I'd be gone too. Just one last move remained, one final curtain, and I already knew exactly where I'd drop it. The first invitation went out on a Wednesday, a soft cream envelope, gold ink, hand-addressed. I recognized the font immediately. Mia always did have a flair for aesthetics. It arrived via courier at my office, sealed with a wax stamp like something from a prep school fantasy. You are cordially invited to celebrate the engagement of Owen Marshall and Mia Kavanaugh, Saturday 7 p.m., the Orlov Room at Le Séraphin, Beverly Hills. There was a handwritten note tucked inside. Victoria, I understand if you don't come, but I wanted you to hear it from me. Owen and I are moving forward. I hope you'll find happiness too. Mia. I laughed so hard I had to close my office door. They were getting married. Not someday. Not in a year. Now. He was actually doing it. Doubling down. Betting on the lie that he could survive this scandal if he spun the story fast enough. Romance. Redemption. A love that overcame shame. Classic PR rot. But beneath that, desperation. The kind that only comes when a man realizes he's lost control. And then grabs onto the next woman like a flotation device. Good, I thought. Let them think they've won. Let them spend money and send invitations and write their vows under rented chandeliers. Because what I was about to do would be remembered a hell of a lot longer than their engagement party. 3 days before the event, I called Daniel. It rang once, then twice, then, Victoria? His voice hit me like a wave. Same quiet rasp. Same heavy pause after my name. It's Owen's, I said. He didn't speak. I thought you should know, I added. The baby, it's his. He exhaled, slow. Are you okay? I will be. Another beat of silence, then gently. Why are you telling me now? Because I needed to clear the last shadow before the curtain dropped. Because I owed him something resembling closure. Because if I didn't say it now, I never would. Because you were kind to me when I had nothing to give, I said. And I needed you to know that the kindness mattered. He didn't respond, but I could feel him listening. Goodbye, Daniel. Goodbye, he said. And, for what it's worth, he's a fool. I hung up before I could cry. Saturday came like a performance cue. Le Séraphin's Orloff room was decadent and sterile. White orchids, floor-to-ceiling glass, ice sculptures that dripped under candlelight. The kind of place where rich people sip French 75s and pretend they're untouched by shame. Mia wore cream, not quite white, but close enough. Satin and lace, youthful, naive. Owen had trimmed his beard and wore the same navy tux I bought him 5 years ago for a gala he never attended. The room was filled with names I'd filed against, faces I'd outmaneuvered, a gallery of LA's most fraudulent well-wishers. They all turned when I walked in. I wore black, long-sleeved, elegant, visibly pregnant. Mia's smile faltered mid-toast. Owen saw me and froze. I crossed the room like I owned it. Because, in a way, I did. This was my courtroom now, and I had come to deliver the verdict. I waited until the music dipped, until the champagne had flowed enough for eyes to soften and cameras to rise. And then I stepped forward, glass in hand, voice clear. I'd like to say something, I said. The room hushed. Owen looked at me, a flicker of panic behind his smile. Mia's hand curled tighter around his arm. I turned to face them both. I'm Victoria Lane, I said. Owen's wife. We're still married. Legally, emotionally, and, in some unfortunate ways, publicly. A murmur rippled through the room. Someone gasped. Mia went pale. I wasn't going to come, I continued. But when I saw the guest list, the venue, the press outlet that's already waiting outside, well, it seemed a shame to waste all that good lighting. Owen stepped forward. Victoria, please. I'm speaking, I said without turning. He froze. 11 years of marriage, I said, hundreds of nights apart, one very memorable bracelet, and now, a child. Due in March. A woman near the back dropped her glass. I've filed for divorce, I said, on grounds of adultery, emotional cruelty, and reputational harm. The evidence is airtight. The court date is set, and per California law, any marital assets spent on extramarital affairs, including parties like this one, are subject to reimbursement. I looked directly at Mia. So I hope you kept the receipt. She opened her mouth, closed it. The room buzzed, electric with shame, and then I pulled the final card. I reached into my clutch, pulled out an envelope. Owen, I said, extending it to him. Consider this your official service. He took it like it was poison. In case you were wondering, I added, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Yes, it's yours. Then I turned, walked out. No music, no applause, just silence. The silence you pay for. In the car, I finally exhaled. My hands shook. My stomach twisted. But somewhere, beneath all of it, was peace. Not triumph, not victory, just quiet. The kind that comes when you finally stop pretending the fire can be put out and instead walk away from the smoke. I pressed a hand to my belly. "Don't worry," I whispered. "You'll never need to know any of this. Because by the time you ask where your father is, he'll be a name in a file, and I'll be someone new." The fallout came fast. By Monday morning, the footage was everywhere, cropped and stitched and looped into a dozen TikToks titled things like, "When your husband's ex shows up pregnant with receipts," and "The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills have nothing on this." I didn't post any of it. I didn't have to. The truth had a mouth of its own now, and it was speaking fluently. Owen's attorney tried calling twice. Then he emailed with a groveling subject line, "Can we discuss settlement options?" He knew I'd already won. He just didn't know how cleanly I'd planned the kill. The judge approved the expedited divorce motion a week later. I secured full custody, primary residence, and a trust fund paid out in quarterly installments from Owen's venture dividends, non-negotiable. His team didn't contest a single clause, because contesting it would have meant dragging it into open court, and Owen couldn't survive one more headline. I moved out in early November. Rented a sunlit bungalow in Los Feliz. Gardens, a porch swing, 3 rooms too small for the life I used to live. I kept only what I needed: clothes, case files, and a bassinet tucked inside a shipping box I couldn't quite bring myself to open yet. The firm put me on sabbatical. "Protect your peace," my junior partner said, and for once, I didn't argue. I started sleeping through the night, sometimes. I still dreamed of glass towers and conference rooms, but I also dreamed of a girl with dark eyes and a laugh I hadn't heard yet. And on the morning I hit 20 weeks, I finally opened the envelope from the lab again. The numbers hadn't changed, but somehow, I wasn't carrying vengeance anymore. I was carrying possibility. A letter came in the mail the following week. No return address. Inside, a single page, handwritten. "Victoria, I saw the footage, and the stills, and the headlines. You looked powerful, and sad, and unafraid. I'm in New Mexico now, working at a recovery center, helping kids who remind me of myself. I won't reach out again, but I want you to know, that night in the rain, when you let me hold you like the world hadn't broken you yet, that was the first time I ever believed I could be good. Take care of the baby. Be better than we were." Daniel. I read it twice, then burned it. Not out of anger, but because some things are meant to disappear completely. March arrived in a storm of blossom and rain. I went into labor on a Thursday, just past midnight. My neighbor drove me. The nurse who held my hand was named Rose. Everything about it felt strangely calm. After hours of sweat and pressure and silence, she was here. My daughter. Mine. She blinked up at me like I was a continent she'd never seen. Her breath hitched, then steadied, then curled soft against my skin. I didn't cry until she wrapped her fingers around mine. Small, certain, unafraid. I named her Noelle, after nothing and everything. The press tried to revive the scandal a month later, when Owen and Mia quietly postponed their wedding, citing stress. He issued a statement. She went to Tulum, but I didn't read the articles. Not anymore. I was busy learning new rhythms. Bottle, burp, sleep, repeat. Days blurred into golden afternoons. Nights became a ceremony of breath and hum and whisper. Sometimes I caught myself staring at her for too long, not out of fear, but out of awe, because I'd built empires from contracts and courtroom silence, but nothing like this. Nothing alive. And one morning, 6 weeks in, I took her outside. Just the two of us. A blanket on the grass. Sunlight pooling around her like the beginning of something. I held her close and whispered what I'd never said aloud. You saved me. Because she did. Not from Owen. Not from betrayal. But from becoming something brittle. She made me softer, sharper, new. And as I kissed her forehead, I realized this wasn't an ending. It was an opening argument, a new case. And this time, I wasn't prosecuting. I was protecting forever.